I personally hate the term work-life balance. I don't necessarily believe in balance.
What am I doing? What's my purpose? Like, am I going to be just keeping tech bros happy all my life? Is this what my mission in life is? There had to be more than this.
We didn't know some of these things were problems until yesterday.
Hey, look, I'm burnt out. I'm on a plane to Bali. I'm going to reset.
I like to work hard and play hard, and whatever I do, I go all in.
Our time is really short on this earth, and I want to do meaningful work.
I like to call it work 2030. Like, what's 5 years ahead?
And world-class leaders have this kind of recipe.
Welcome back to What the FTE, the podcast for HR leaders who are done playing defense and ready to shape the future of work. This week, I am incredibly excited to be joined by Anita Krishnan, Chief Culture Officer at Hoogly AI, breathwork coach, and former head of global people and strategy at TikTok. She's part corporate gladiator, part grounded yogi, and somehow both at once. Like, pretty wild. Anita's career is anything but linear. And from the pre-chat we just had, I cannot wait to hear more. We are diving into how to build a career with no trade-offs and what real self-leadership looks like. Let's get into it. Anita, welcome to the show.
So grateful to be here. Thank you so much for that lovely intro. Yeah, it's surreal as I hear that, and I'm like, wow, I've really designed life this way, and yeah, so I'm really excited to share some knowledge and have a fun chat today.
Well, I mean, I'm always talking about living the dream, and I mean, you're clearly living it. I mean, when was the moment you realized your life couldn't just be one thing and that you weren't going to choose between breath work and boardrooms?
It was the breath work and yoga was always a big part of what I was doing, but it wasn't enough. It was just, I was always going back into these environments that were just incredibly stressful. And I remember one breathwork journey in Singapore, the team from Breathwork Bali came, and it was just this huge, for me, it was just this huge release of the stress that I was holding. And I said, what am I doing? What's my purpose? Like, am I going to be just keeping tech bros happy all my life? Like, is this what my mission in life is? There had to be more than this. And it was more of a revelation. And I found myself, I kept taking those breaks, those mini sabbaticals that I needed. And then I'm like, I'm resilient. I can bounce back. But it was just really, it was clear my body was just completely dysregulated. My nervous system was just completely shot. And I really needed to hit pause. And just the idea was to just take the break and go off to do a clinical breathwork training for 400 plus hours, 6 months. Like, I was diving into breathwork, and I got really lucky throughout this. I met Moet. He reached out to pitch Hoogly to me, and bless him, he convinced me to come on board. And I love the mission. I love the product that we're designing. And so I get to keep that creative element, the intellectual simulation that I definitely crave and enjoy. But it gives me time to still do breath work here in Bali, and then also write. So this is how I've designed life right now. And it's taking that leap of faith. I think that's what everyone struggles with when they've built up such a successful career with titles and chasing the big dream. And it's really hard to let go of some of that. I left a lot of money on the table, golden handcuffs, all of that. And to be able to feel like, no, I think life is meant to be enjoyed and live it with joy, and being able to, I always come back to Bali all the time. Every time I'm stressed out, I just come back here as if this is just a safe haven. It's like, no, this is going to be my home now, and I'm going to operate from here. And if there are companies who actually want to grab top talent that are working remotely and really wake up and see where the talent is, it'll work out. And if not, cool, I'll just continue to write and play and be fun employed is what my family and friends say, which I really believe that. It's not that I've like completely let go. The Hoogly part has been such a redefinition of what success means. And I'd love to like share a bit more on that. Yeah, I've achieved more in this short time at Hoogly. That's just more high impact than what I was doing in some of these bigger organizations. And so, yes, scaling TikTok to 50,000 is always there. But every time someone says that, she's like, how did you do that? I'm like, yeah, that was Mission Impossible. Like you're touching on PTSD moment there. Like that isn't humanly possible to do. So but then being able to be part of a startup, go out there, pitch it, win 2 startup awards, and then raise $1 million at such an early stage with initial angel investments. And so that says a lot to what we're building, what we're passionate about, in redefining. And it's, I call it the next era of work, because we're in the future of work now. So I'm calling it what's that next era of work? That's because everybody's like future of work. I'm like that's lost its meaning now.
Yeah, that was last. That was so 2015.
Yeah,
I like to call it
exactly.
work 2030. I like to think what's 5 years ahead? Because 10 years somewhat irrelevant, but like what is 5 years from now? So I mean, really good kickoff point for. I mean, what is Hoogly? Like for those that don't know, it sounds super exciting. And we don't even know what it is yet.
Yeah. So Hoogly AI is we're basically designing reimagining engagement, employee engagement. I call it a culture operating system. So we're taking the product. Instead of doing traditional once a year annual engagement surveys, we're having conversations with employees to get the insights. So without surveying, we're finding out about their sentiments, how things are going. And in real time, the managers get coaching around how to act on this feedback. So it's not the whole cycle of wait 6 months for the survey to fit, like survey results, survey actions, planning, and then by the time you know it, the next survey is out. I've done this before as a CPO myself, so I know the drill on this topic. It's just this never-ending cycle where we're not really meeting employees where they're at or what their needs are, and so we always find out too late. They've quit and it's reactive. And so what Hoogly is designing is to bring in those risk measures, proactively assess what's going on. And our coach, our culture partner, is called Ven, and he's just the most empathetic, warm AI coach that we've designed. And it's all AI first, so we're not a traditional product that has just added AI to it. This is designed with AI first kind of mindset. And we love when we kind of like go in and people think like, wait, there's no survey? I'm like, there's no survey. We're having a conversation. You're going to get some insights. There's amazing dashboards, but most of all, the managers feel empowered and get coached to act on that feedback much sooner. And so this is how we've designed it. And we have a culture toolkit that then supports with building that connection, building that sense of belonging, recognition, performance, etc. But essentially, we're looking at measuring organizational health in a real-time way, which it doesn't exist at the moment. No.
Wow. That is like, is this available? Like, can we sign up? I mean, I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago that was like, talking about how we don't give this kind of coaching to entry-level and mid-level managers. It's like this huge gap in the organization. We just finished our review session and we just went through our survey results, and it's like eye-opening. And we're like, one of the questions we went through it today. One of the questions from a member of the team is basically like, what are you going to do about this and by when? And it's like, well, by the next engagement survey, which is in, a couple of months, we're going to have not a lot implemented because we didn't know some of these things were problems until yesterday.
So this is the common cycle that every organization faces, where it's just the information between when you get it and the time to act. It's really slow at the moment. And so one of the things that we want to do is really that middle manager layer. They're the ones that are overwhelmed. They can use this coaching to be able to like be there for anything to do with culture and being able to scale culture and really do something, move the needle around employee engagement, comes from the manager, that trust with the manager. If that's not there, everything else is going to be broken. Maybe people like you, but we want to know how that's trickling down in the organization, and that manager to the person is where everything's at. And we know that engagement is at that 10-year low. Lots of talk around this, and that's historically because we haven't gotten to addressing what these insights are, and people want to see results now, not later. And the way the current workforce is operating, like they're moving like fast in terms of like they're quick to say, I want this. If I'm not here, I'm out. Like I can go find something else somewhere else. But they're not putting up with the hustle culture and kind of like the millennial ideologies that we hold, where we just work hard. Our parents told us to do this. We need to keep go. They're kind of like, no, I need work-life balance. I'm gonna get my matcha. I'm gonna go to Pilates and do my best work. But there's time limits for that. There's constraints, and we can learn from that. We can definitely learn from how to live a better life and balanced life. I was listening to another podcast, and it was that one of these leadership experts, and he was saying that, yeah, billionaires are so unhappy with life, and they're so successful. They've made all this money, but their soul is like they're feeling soulless at this point. And yeah, that resonates with me. We don't want to create these environments where people are just not attuned to who they are, what they want to achieve, and really drive after a stronger purpose. And so I think that's where we're missing all of those good things about leadership and how people do it in a more human way.
That's really interesting. I personally hate the term work-life balance, just because I don't necessarily believe in balance. You talk about your work ethic. I think we share the same work ethic. Like, I like to work hard and play hard, and whatever I do, I go, all in. And
Yeah.
I go all in on a lot of stuff, so nothing is really balanced. It's interesting you talk about that human side of leadership. Like, is there a belief or advice that you have for people on like how to bring that and how to get, people to that place of maybe not balance, but like optimal for them to have the best possible performance and also feel fulfilled outside of work?
Yeah, I think it starts. It's a very simple recipe on yourself. I think that's where it starts. There's 3 components for me when I think about leadership. It's self leadership, how I operate, how I show up. Second is how I lead my teams, and then third, like how I show up in society and organizations. On the self leadership part, I just thought for me growing up was I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to empower others. And it was always external facing and doing good things and which is great. But there was parts where it got really tough when I went into the tech world and you had to let go people and do all these like, business critical, mission critical things. You lose sight of people do lose sight of the human aspect. And I was the one that was bringing that sanity in. But I go back and I rethink all of these things now as from with the lens that I have as a breathwork coach. And it really starts with leaders being really attuned to themselves. And it starts with their sleep. Are they getting movement in, daily movement in? If you're not getting daily movement in at the start or something like daily, it's really hard for people to be able to trust your decision-making capabilities, because you're operating from a place of lacking that clarity that you really need to be able to do your best work. So daily movement is the second piece. And then third is just being able to have a grounded kind of presence and not operate in a very reactive way. And I find that leaders, at least majority of the leaders now, they're go-getters. They want to achieve so much. They want to go all in, which I'm very familiar with that. I would 200%. This is where I struggle now, where if I have to do boundary up, it's a difficult thing for me. But I'm unlearning to be able to do that. And I think with the attunement and the clarity comes in, people, you see it in people's voice, you see it in the way they operate, you see the small moments they take to say hi to every single person. They know the names of the coffee folks at the cafe. And they're not in a rush. They're not there's not this 24/7 urgency kind of mindset. And I appreciate that. I like that when you can spot people who are either meditating or doing some form of breath work. And it's a habit forming kind of thing. It's not a one-time thing. Oh, I went to a sound bath, went to yoga on Sunday. No, it's a daily kind of practice. And world-class leaders have this kind of recipe. And, Robin Sharma talks about this all the time, all the people that he's coaching and that recipe for success. But if you don't put the work in, you're not going to be able to achieve that. As simple as that. You're going to be in that cycle again and again. And then there's another piece where it's a lot to do with childhood development and your circumstances, your environment. There's just so much conditioning that happens as a kid that creeps up to adulthood. And the people who are now going back like, oh, behaviors, patterns, why am I like this? What am I doing? They're really getting into this child psychology piece of it, and starting to see what may have been not there as a child, and then what's surfacing now in the boardrooms. And so when I see alpha male behavior, I'm just like, wow, who hurt you as a kid? Like, I want to know more. And so I'm seeing leadership in a very different lens. And for me, that's being embodied. It's a sense what I call embodied leadership. And you're really attuned to yourself, society, your surroundings, team members, like how they're feeling, how they're operating, what's happening in their lives. So it's more than the business side of it. And it's a lot for one human to look after, but I think it's just a very just mindset shift on how you interact with people in general, like humans in general in life.
That is very wise. You keep talking about breath work. For me, when I first knew we were gonna do this, I was thinking about breath work, and I'm like, oh, I did breath work to train for getting held under in big wave surfing, and not the same, clearly. I figured someone who lives in Bali may be training for big wave surfing. Clearly not the case, but this sounds like a really foundational part to your journey, and getting to this place that you're.
Breathwork is so trendy right now and very popular. And so I'd love to share, for me, this particular modality really spoke to me. How to describe it would be that the modality combines conscious connected breathwork, which is where you're looping your breath continuously without pauses. And what's unique about it is this method called facilitated breath repatterning. And what that involves is touch work to help the breath move to different parts of your body where it might not have gone or might be stuck. Some people breathe up from their chest. Some people breathe into their belly. No breath into the pelvic floor. Like, there's a lot going on if people haven't done breath work in a way that helps you breathe into all parts of your body. And once I first experienced that, I was like, wow, I put my foot on the ground. I'm like, I can feel the ground. Like, I can actually feel the ground, my feet on like touching the ground. Where normal people sometimes people operate without that numbness in their body, different parts of the body. They just don't know that their breath is dysfunctional. And so for me, the training that I did, the 400 plus hours, was looking at different body types and like rib cages and diaphragms and really getting into it. And so it's not all this trendy stuff where you're in ice bath and hyperventilating. It's actually, there's a somatic component to it, which I'm really grateful that I witnessed it and experienced it, and really grateful for a team that just completely does this selflessly. There isn't, it's not a big following, but we've now have a group of people globally that have been trained in FBR as breathwork practitioners. We look at internal family systems. We're looking at somatic aspects to it. And now when I talk to folks who've done breathwork or have done cool training for competitions, they're doing breathwork, but in a very, going into an alternate state, but in that controlled kind of environment. How to do that 11-hour cycling journey in Leadville, or something like a surfing competition that you've done, is really just building your capacity and your volume in your body, but being comfortable with tapping into parts of your subconscious mind that you haven't really worked with. And so it's pretty deep work. It's not something that, there's regular pranayama practices where you can do some breathing techniques, and that's the basics where you would start and to be grounded, etc. But the work around FBR is done in person. It's a breathwork journey. It's a 2-hour, 75-minute journey, with the start, pre and a post debriefing, and tons of integration. People are integrating a journey maybe for a day or two, or some people go on for weeks. You see the difference in people that come in, especially some of the clients that I work with are really high performing executives. They're just kind of like operating on caffeine, and go, and losing sight of who they are, and their relationships are suffering, whether that's not being present for their family or being overwhelmed. If you're having a bad day at work, you're going to take that out when you go home, like with the people that you actually care about, that you're actually working hard to put, food on the table for, like aren't seeing the best of you. And so the conversation's starting to change around how can I show up to be present in all aspects of life. And so I love, as trendy it is right now, people with their 5 a.m. routines, morning routines and stuff that's trending on Instagram. I'm just like, oh, this father has it right. He's a 40-year-old engineer who's getting up super early to get that workout in, and then being there for a morning breakfast with the kids, school drop off, go to work, 4:55, getting out of the door, going out of the office to go and do the nighttime routine and be present with their family. And it's possible to do all these things, but people are used to, oh, I don't have time. I'm an executive. I'm busy. I've got a jet set around the world. And it's redefining all these notions of what traditional leadership looks like. You can have both. And it doesn't have to be this terminology of work-life balance, but integration, harmony. Like there's different words that could be used.
I love the term integration or harmony. The 5 a.m. wake ups, like I've been doing it for a long time, since long before it was popular. And it's funny because, in the periods of times that I've stopped, it's actually made me a worse CEO. It's made me worse at my job. And it's funny because I seem to get busier because my brain just isn't functioning at the same level. And then, when we talk about like harmony or integration, I've changed the way that I work too, to get more of that balance, more of that time with my family. I mean, my kids, they're not in school yet. They're 3 and 4. So I bring them everywhere. Like all my work trips, it's an investment. So my kids have been to 11 countries. My daughter's 4, my son's 3. You have to get that harmony. Now this breathwork sounds really cool. I'm going to have to hit you up after this because I just signed up for a VO2 Max contest with a whole bunch of Canadian founders. And
cool.
I feel like I'm probably starting at the bottom of the pack, but I'm going to use whatever cheat I can to get up there. And by cheat, I mean legitimate. Like I'm not going to take performance enhancing drugs, but this sounds like a really fun adventure, and something that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, you work with a lot of CEOs. I mean, obviously you've had this incredible career. What do you look for in a founder or CEO before you agree to work with them? Both from like a breathwork perspective and, obviously you've worked with some great CEOs and great founders.
Yeah, I think for me, the empathy that you can see in like the first conversations, initially it's that connection of, can I trust this person to go all in? That's kind of the mindset I used to have. Are they creating building something that's innovative? And so the companies that I chose to work with were very intentional. I got headhunted. I went in for the interview. We equally interviewed each other. There's a common ground. The question I asked them, what's my mandate here? Like, the job JD. I didn't even, like, some of these opportunities that there was no JD, which is why people don't get my LinkedIn when I say, yeah, I did head of product. Like I built product, but I also did this. I did strategy, but I also did this, because wherever the opportunities come up, I just, went up for it, like took it up. And the founders and CEOs that I work with, they're thinking about culture and people is like top priority for them. And so when I meet them, they're like, whoa, the business savviness is there. You get what we're trying to build. This isn't traditional. I'm not a traditional HR practitioner. So that kind of made me really unique. And then the global experience of being Canadian, out in having the European experience, or now being in Asia for over 7 years, like all that kind of puts a great perspective. But with the founders, there's always this empathy. They cared about culture. They cared about humans. I think there was none of this. Like, yeah, if they were an alpha male, we didn't get along. I did not go. Like, I also interviewed with a lot of companies, and I'm like, no, don't care how much more money or what the package is. There's just not interest. And sometimes I'll say, early on, not even waiting for an offer. And so it's just not aligned with me, and that's okay. And with speaking to like how Moet, the CEO and founder of Hoogly, I told him when he called me, it's like, hey, look, I'm burnt out. I'm on a plane to Bali. I'm gonna reset, and there's no way I'm like, I am not in that capacity to run a business and be an entrepreneur myself. And that kind of conversation where it's like, oh, and then he shared about, his inspiration behind Hoogly, where he, second time founder, successful exit, moves out to Australia thinking he's going to play golf and retire and reset, and really felt like he lost his sense of connection and purpose, and with the community and the team he had before and the community he had built in UK, and having to restart in Australia, and he had a heart attack. And so when that happened, when he shared that story, we're talking like we're having a vulnerable conversation about who we are, lessons we've learned, and what we're trying to do and redefine. And for me, when I said this is exactly the type of organization or the mindset, where after a mission, we want to redefine how work is for humans. This is the product that's going to build that. I come in as a subject matter expert. He's a successful entrepreneur, second time founder. It's just a healthy kind of way of working together. And along the way, people have reached out because, what are you doing? We want to offer you remote. I'm like, what, remote wherever you are. I'm like, I'm committed. I have something working really amazing at Hoogly, and it's not something I'm interested in at the moment. But thank you. And it's just because there's no alignment. They're looking for a flashy, just to come in and say what they're doing. But whether the product or the mission, it all has to resonate. And for me, that initial trust, that connection, is an important part, and they need to be able to exhibit some empathy.
It sounds like you've got some incredible alignment with the team, with the business. I mean, it seems like an incredible organization. Now, you had said, and I quote, an organization is like an orchestra. I'm curious, what is the first sign that a team has lost its rhythm?
Yeah, I think the first sign, you'll see the disengagement, you'll see the disagreements popping up. There's lack of alignment. Things are starting to move slower. And for me, the orchestra analogy is it's also just being in a band as well, drumming to the same beat. And that starts with culture and leadership. If the leadership isn't able to foster that kind of trust environment, create that safety, people aren't going to come in and willing to be innovative and take risk. And so that for me is the first piece, where the lack of psych safety creates those kind of environments where people can't function. But with the orchestra analogy, it's you're in sync, and you're moving together to create something so beautiful. And if you've seen people, like when you witness it, it's so beautiful that it can bring you to tears. And that's because the precision is there, the clarity is there, the focus is there. This isn't the departments thinking in a siloed manner in companies, which there's always an alpha male leader, where product is going off doing their own thing, sales is doing something else, marketing is doing something else. No, this is everybody has to be in that harmony together to achieve great things. And that for me is the kind of the analogy that comes up. And it's hard to achieve. But if the leadership is able to do that, the transparency is there in their communication style, they're really clear on what the mission is, what we're trying to achieve. In order to achieve all of this, it starts with the leader having that clarity. They're attuned to themselves, what they want to achieve, what's happening. They're not operating from this mindset of this ego popping in and saying, my performance review has to be amazing. I'm gonna slam dunk this. No, not like I'm gonna make it take it to the next level at the cost of the entire team burning out. That's not the mindsets that we need. And so it's hard to achieve, but doable if we're really able to handpick the best of the best talent. And this is where I'm very passionate about when we're hiring for teams, that you're bringing in the best minds if you can afford it and build that team. It's actually that was the success behind TikTok. And it was the global leaders that we brought in that have done it before, that were able to just snap a finger, boom, scale. This, yes, we scaled quickly, but that was an operation of hiring the best minds to be able to do that. And of course they could afford it. TikTok was able to afford it. And Trivago was just different mindset of growing talent from within. And so the current CEO of Trivago used to be an intern at the company. Like, he started off as an intern, and today he's the company's CEO. And there are like beautiful, these are the types of organizations that I worked at that I'm very proud of, because the founder mindset was like that. I had unlimited vacation back in 2014, and still we're talking about, return to office and 100% and all kinds of weird norms about these old outdated definitions about what work is. And that's where, tell me how you operate like an orchestra. Tell me what your vision mission is. How do you, culture, what are your benefits and policy? If someone doesn't have human, people friendly kind of benefits and processes, it's just a red flag. Like, and as a people leader, you go in, it's a red flag right there. You want green flags. Founder, check. Leadership, check. Team, I'm working with smart people. That's another part. After working with incredibly smart people that have run global companies before, I found it really difficult to work with folks who are just incompetent or don't have experience. It was a night and day kind of transition. I was like, wow, I can't do this. No, we're not. And then you meet people who have run a company before, like really in the trenches, been there with the people. I didn't really see a difference. And so for me, that now, I have a lesson learned. I was just said, there's just some things that need to be aligned and congruent to my personal values and what I want to achieve to be able to do that. Our time is really short on this earth, and I want to do meaningful work. And so, Hoogly was just, I'm like, you want to solve for this? I'm in. Yeah, I'm all in kind of mindset. And that's comes from a founder, a great team. And I say with pride, I'm a breathwork coach. I also am the chief culture officer at Hoogly. My colleague is VP product. She's also a professional ballerina, performing at Sydney Opera House. Like, I brag about my team all the time, because this is really cool. Like, I don't know how many people have a breathwork coach and a ballerina part of their senior executive team. Like,
that is wild. Well, I have one more question for you before we wrap this up. I mean, you coach some of the most powerful people in business. Like, what is the highest impact advice you can give them, or a potential breathing exercise?
It's a very simple start for founders who are looking to do it. I always go into the sleep part. Start with the sleep. And there's no magic number of how many hours, but like that range of 7 to 9 hours of sleep is where we start. And then building out that routine. What does that routine look like of daily movement in the morning? What parts of their life are they lacking clarity? And then we work backwards to achieve that. And there's metrics. There's science behind it, right? Like there is enough that we're looking at together to be able to say, after a 8-week therapeutic arc, you're going to be able to see a difference in the way you speak, the way you think, the clarity that you're getting get in life, and that shift in perspective is what we do. But I start every coaching exercise starts with the sleep part, and you'll be and sometimes they come in with that cup of coffee, or like you can see the jitters, lack of sleep, and then I also have other people who have that fitness element down pat. They have training for marathons. They're really fit. Those kind of CEOs, it's more like, okay, and when do you squeeze in, like, what does recovery look like for you? I'm like, yeah, I go for an ice bath. I'm like, okay, that's there's just like more, like, do you complement of non-training? Because you can't overtrain and then also be a CEO, and then, yeah, there's not enough. Your body is just in a constant state of overdrive. So how does that downregulation, that downshifting actually look like for you? And so these are the types of conversations we have. And I love seeing the change that comes through that. And It's just simple. I'm not saying you need to go on a sabbatical. It's just unpacking, unlayering, and just reconfiguring life in a way that works for you to be at your peak performance, be there, be human about it, love your family in ways possible that, like, your example of taking your super young kids to see the world that's amazing. That's that brought me to a memory with my dad where, there were immigrants. My dad's a truck driver, growing up, and I saw every single U.S. state at the back, like in the bunk beds of the truck. And even when we got to experience that as a kid because, he saw that he's always on the road and he needed that time. So summer holidays was fun for us. I've traveled to every single state. And so I love when people find that way to integrate these kind of moments that matter the most. That's the foundation that I'm working with leaders on. And then I'm like, how was your next performance? Like, let's talk about your next performance review and how that's translated in some of that 360 feedback you'll get from your team saying that, wow, there's something that's shifted in this person. People notice the shift. People who speak to me from, like executive Anita to kind of now, and there's like, whoa, there's a shift in you, your energy, your perspective in life. And I just had time to reflect, think, and been really integrating into what I'm learning and what I'm doing. And there's just more to life that I'd love to do and operate from a greater sense of clarity in life.
Sometimes that time to audit what you're doing, a lot of what we do every day is busy work. I find people like to be busy. It's focus on the outcomes. What is the thing that you're trying to achieve and focus on doing those things? Don't disassemble your desk and clean your hard drive and do all that kind of stuff right now. Like, do the thing that drives the impact for the company and do only that. And that, to me, is how you get like the best performance review. That's how you build time for, fitness and breath work and do all that stuff. I mean, I can already tell that you are super outcome driven, and that's why you're able to achieve this. And I really appreciate you joining us today. This was a great episode. And I don't know about you, but I'm walking away with a lot to think about, not just as a leader, but as a human. And I'm definitely going to be following up on my breathwork journey. For everyone watching, if you enjoyed the conversation, do yourself a favor, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Anita, thank you so much for joining us. For those watching, if you want to go deeper on anything Anita shared about designing a life that actually works, we've linked all the resources in the show notes. Thanks for listening to What the FTE, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks again, Anita. This was awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and really enjoyed speaking to you today.